If you're anything like me, you've probably come across several sketchbook tours in your For You page. And every time I watch a sketchbook tour, the same things always come to mind. Wow, their sketchbook looks so good, it's like perfect. And how can I make my sketchbook look as good as theirs? I get hit with a wave of inspiration and striving to make mine as good as theirs, but then the realization hits me. My sketchbook doesn't look as good as theirs. It looks like trash. How can I ever be proud of this? I, over the years, have battled with these questions, and over time, I think I have accumulated some ways that I myself try to make my sketchbook look more quote-unquote aesthetic. But before I give you advice about this, I want to preface this by saying, please keep in mind that you should not be obsessing over having perfect or aesthetic looking pages to the point that it gives you anxiety to draw. Your sketchbook does not have to be perfect, and you should not be comparing it to others. Your sketchbook is a place for you to learn, grow, and develop your art skills above all things. But with that said, I do have some tips to make your sketchbook more visually appealing. Tip number 1, don't only use pencil. While I do think using pencil in a sketchbook can work for you, I think that only using pencil in your sketchbook can make your pages and compositions look very static. But what is static art, you're asking? A static composition may have a focal point, but it has no movement. I will put some examples up on screen of what static is, but basically it just lacks that visual pow, that visual hook. Like when you look at it, it doesn't immediately catch your eye. And as artists, we are always striving to have art that catches eyes, that evokes emotions, and stands out from the last. Tip number 2, make sure that every single page is different from the last. If every single one of your pages seem to look similar to one another, this can make your sketchbook look very boring and not so fun to flip through. So my tip is, try to make every page look different from the last. Use different mediums, supplies, color schemes, compositions, characters, whatever you're doing. Say I did oil pastel on one page, and then on the next page I'll do watercolor, and then after that I'll do alcohol markers, and then after that I'll do black and white. Try to make things stand out from each other, and that'll really make your pages pop and seem interesting. Tip number 3, using sticky notes and combating bleed through. If you're like me, I like using multimedia supplies in my sketchbooks, and because of that, I get lots of bleed through on my pages. And I personally feel guilty if I don't touch a page, so even if my page still has bleed through on it, I still want to use it somehow. So that's how I use sticky notes, pieces of paper, or things from day-to-day life that I can use as reminders. So I often will use sticky notes, pieces of paper, I often will glue things in, etc. Tip number 4, draw a variety of things, aka not just headshots. I think I used to get into the groove of only drawing heads in my sketchbook, but if you want to improve your anatomy and stylization, you need to break out of that habit of only drawing headshots, because headshots can only get you so far. Because whilst you may learn how to draw a pretty face, what's a pretty face without a good-looking body? So, yeah. Tip number 5, color washes over your sketches. I like sketching things in pen, but if I leave things just as pen, sometimes my pages will look a bit white and empty. That's why I like using watercolor. I like watercolor because if you use watercolors, you can still see the pen underneath it, even though you did pen first. And you can layer up colors, making things as vibrant or as pastel as you want, so you can get the color scheme of the environment you're drawing. Tip number 6, stickers, shop receipts, cards, etc. Make it a reminder of your daily events in life. I am a person who likes to use my sketchbook as sort of like a journal. I like incorporating things from day-to-day life. For example, I taped in movie tickets, shop receipts, little things I bought from shops and cards, and things that have been given to me by friends. in my sketchbook not only because it's somewhat like a time capsule, but it also makes it more personal to me. Tip number 7. Just because you have every color doesn't mean you need to use all of them. Basically, just because you have every single color alcohol marker doesn't mean you need to be using all of them for every drawing. Sometimes a limited color palette can really add to your compositions, and having a really good color scheme can improve with that. For example, keeping a color scheme of pink, yellow, and purple can really add to the composition, as if I tried to use every single color, probably wouldn't have the same visual effect. And the very last tip, experiment with many mediums. If you are someone who wants to pursue art or wants to do it for school in the future, I recommend you do multimedia, because often art schools are looking for people who are versatile in mediums and can work in many different areas. Also, it can just help you develop as an artist in general and can help build up your visual library and your skill set. So working with things like acrylic, watercolor, markers, like oil pastels, all of those are great mediums to help you improve your art, and it all makes your sketchbook so much more colorful and fun to flip through. So yeah, with all of that said, those were my tips on helping make your sketchbook look more quote-unquote aesthetic. And yeah, I hope these tips can help you with your own sketchbook and your own art journey. And with all that said, I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye-bye!